Hearing Lonerbox lay out his 2025 aspirations is hilarious until you realize how true it is.
I look forward to some time coming back when I can like brand myself as the only remaining political streamer who doesn't have doesn't have sex scandals and doesn't support terrorists.
Hey, I'm right here. I'm right here. I did have the sex scandal. What other sex scandals did I have? No, my life, honestly, my life is like pretty boring now, but in a good way. I like being bored. It's nice. 38 minutes and 17 seconds. Okay.
I want to preface this video by stating that I was the only one that reached out to everyone involved in this story, and that the victims weren't just used by Destiny, but by YouTubers trying to frame themselves as heroes. One of them is still lying about what he did. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I personally care about the victims either. I don't know them. However, I do have the basic human decency to not try and sabotage them. I pride myself on doing a good job, and this video is finally up to those standards. So enjoy! Destiny is a political streamer that has framed himself as a moral authority. I've gone on his shows, cited his appearances often when covering the Red Pill. He's framed himself as someone who's fighting for respecting women.
I think there's an intention with
Fucking poor Eardite, bro. I feel like she got fucked so bad from this whole situation. First of all, her actions behind the scenes were totally, blatantly misrepresented by President Sunday, is that his name? Made her out to be Ghislaine Maxwell situation, and when that couldn't have been further from the truth. It seems like at every step, from everything that I've seen, from all of the DMs that got made public and her public statements and other people's statements, it seems like at every step of the way she was trying to do, and I think what she did, do the best that she could to help navigate a really difficult situation. She was working behind the scenes to negotiate favorable outcomes for the people that were negatively impacted by the situation, specifically Pixie. I'm not sure what involvement she had in any of the other allegations, and then people pilloried her for that, and now she just announced recently that Bridges is just going to move on without Steven. It's just going to be her project, and like I hope she finds success, but I mean, oh my god, consider how disrupted her life has now become as a result of Destiny's behavior. She had spent over a year, you guys, I want you to think about this. She spent over a year trying to get a green card to be able to stay in the country legally. It was a long, expensive, arduous process. That's not, anybody who's dealt with the American immigration system knows that it's very process heavy. And as far as I know, she was approaching the end of that process after spending, I think, I don't want to misquote her, but I think she spent over $1,000 on, over $10,000 on a process of like working with lawyers and doing all that blah, blah, you know, whatever. And then right at the end, when she's like, as far as I'm aware, she was close to getting that green card and close to being able to stay here in the country. I mean, she had to go through like a situation where she was here and she thought she was here legally, and she was. I don't want to actually say that she wasn't, but she called her lawyer one day and her lawyer was like, oh, if you don't leave tomorrow and go back to Canada, you're going to be here illegally and it's going to blow up all of your efforts so far. And so she had to leave, I think, on a day's notice and go back to Canada and stay there for like a month or 2 or 3 months before she came back again. And then all this stuff happens. And it's just like, I have just a tremendous amount of sympathy for her because she got a ton of negative press from this story that was not deserved, in my opinion. And then her entire life is completely upended now. And I just like, I don't know what she's going to do. I hope she figures it out. She's a smart, resourceful person, but the stress of what she's going through right now would consume me. Like I don't know if I'd be able to manage with that level of stress.
within DDG, from what I can tell, from what you say and what people say, to make women feel comfortable in this space. Is that correct?
There's an intention from me. There's probably an intention from part of my community.
He thinks teenagers should get dating advice from him rather than their own stupid parents.
Person comes up to you and starts saying some weird stuff. You just sit there with this 13-year-old and then you start having conversations extended about them about dating.
Yeah, I have before. What do you mean? No, would I tell if a young person came up to me and they were asking me questions about some like boy problems or something? Yeah, I'd probably say, yeah, of course. What do you mean about a 35-year-old man? Of course I'm gonna have better advice for them than some random high school person. Yeah, of course. If a 15-year-old girl came up to me and she's like, there's some weird shit going on with a boy in my high school, I'd say, oh no, don't talk to me, honey. Go ask another 15-year-old boy, or ask your retarded mom and dad who are gonna tell you to never talk to any boys ever. No, what the why would I not talk to a person? Wait, what?
Yet Destiny has a longer list of women he's had sexual interactions with that now hate him than any of these guys. Almost all of which have been labeled as crazy, unhinged psychos, liars.
Yeah, like, I can be a pretty cold mother. And yeah, you know, me and Malene have problems, but I don't think I f***ed with all of this. I'm not running around screen sharing people's nudes, calling people ugly behind their backs while telling them I want to f*** them because they're like trying to go up on shows that I'm like a producer of.
But recent leaks showed Destiny sharing sex tapes of his.
Well, that was a lie.
past partners without their consent to a 19-year-old named Rose in an attempt to get laid. I can't help but wonder, was there any truth behind their stories?
Things that's been done to me without consent or anything. that has been my past 5 years.
Then there's the aspect of how these stories broke, coming from two YouTubers, President Sunday and Beckett, who never reached out to the victim, were never given permission to share any of this. Yet they did it anyway, confirming it's her in the leaks to the general public, framing her as a suicide baiter for saying she'd kill herself if her parents found out.
Pixie did the worst thing that someone in her position could do.
This was sociopathic. I listened to this video when I was on a walk, this President Sunday video, and his characterization of Pixie in this portion of the video was just straight up sociopathic. It was crazy. He was accusing her of, yeah, what WillyMac just said, of basically pretending to be suicidal in order to leverage that to get more money. It's like he couldn't imagine the impulse to self-harm in a situation where your privacy has been violated in a way that I can't even begin to imagine how violating that must feel to have what happened to her happen. It's just I would my thoughts would go dark in a moment like that, for sure. My thoughts would go dark. It was so wild. Like, this video was crazy to me. Like, my jaw was agape as I was walking along my path, listening to the video. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Rather than seek legal recourse or make a public statement denouncing the violation of her consent and dignity that these leaks represented,
She was literally doing both of those things.
she seems to have ultimately chosen to try and profit from the situation by
How does he not understand that she was afraid of the Streisand effect? Like, she was afraid if she went public, that ultimately the problem that she was dealing with was this massive violation of privacy. And if she were to go public with any kind of allegations, well, now all of a sudden people, you run the risk of like 100 times more people seeing those pictures or watching those videos. You don't even need that explained. I would just assume that someone in that spot would be thinking about that, like would be evaluating the risk versus the benefit. And the risk over here is just so obviously apparent,
by extorting Destiny.
This guy didn't even...
Leftists can't side with Destiny because of optics. I don't know. I feel like that's like a crude oversimplification just to say it boils down to optics. I think optics play a part in it, but just like principally, especially if you're on the left, it's impossible to justify a continuing kind of professional relationship with someone like Destiny, especially given like how he's handled the situation. What I hoped to see from Destiny, which, I didn't, it's not like I thought it would be likely because I just don't know him personally all that well. But what I hoped to see was like a full accounting, like a full inventory, like a full mea culpa, like a full, like, I did this thing, I really f***ed up. Here's how that impacted other people. But instead, what I've seen from him, and I haven't been paying strict attention, but sometimes stuff shows up on my feed, calling attention to the things that he's done, is like, I've seen him make a lot of jokes about the situation, which I find, like, we all have our coping mechanisms. I'm not going to say that I don't understand the instinct to make jokes about something that's really difficult, but I don't think these jokes are very appropriate when all this stuff is going on right now. He's made like 4 or 5 jokes about the situation. And I don't find those jokes funny. I don't think they're helpful. And I've seen that those jokes have impacted the people that are a part of the story. Like, Pixie's tweeted about it, and not a great response to this situation. I think he said that he's going to come out this week with some kind of a statement. And I'm sure WillyMac's going to touch on this because he said, like, he has since on social media said, like, well, I never admitted to anything. But when you look at the leaked DMs, it's pretty apparent that he is at minimum admitting to sharing people's nudes without their consent, which is really what's at the heart of this whole thing. Like, that is the grave sin that has been committed here.
And try to understand the full story before making a video victim shaming her. While her parents certainly know now, thanks to Sunday's journalism, if she dies, she dies, a risk he's totally willing to take on behalf of making his YouTube video. After Pixie was forced to go public, she would have other women reach out, saying they also had their nudes shared without their consent. One girl even claimed she filed a police report on Destiny for secretly recording them having sex.
She blocked me. We followed each other on Twitter. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but she blocked me. I don't know what I said. I have no idea what I said, but she blocked me. And it made me feel like, wait, did I say something f***ed up? Like, did I say something that like invalidated her accusations? I don't think I did. I wouldn't have said anything, but maybe she thought I was like siding with him or something like that. I don't know. I didn't talk about it very much on Twitter in terms of this situation, but I talked about it on the stream. But I'm not gonna judge her, because anybody who's going through a situation like that, whatever. If she felt the need to block me, then sure she had a reason. Witch King with $5. He's in the middle of a lawsuit. Probably not a great idea to publicly admit to stuff regardless of what the DMs say. I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, like, he's already come out and admitted to what is at the core of like these allegations. And then on top of that, if you're in litigation or whatever, I don't understand why you would be cracking jokes. That seems kind of crazy to me, because every time you crack a joke like that, that could be used against you in the civil proceedings. I just feel like he's just, again, I spoke about it like in the video before, but I feel like he has such a self-destructive impulse. I can identify with like being self-destructive for sure. I know what that's like, but boy, it just feels like he cannot physically constrain himself sometimes.
Which, if true, is such a violation of another person's privacy. I genuinely hope he faces criminal consequences for it. This is not the first time this accusation has come up.
The way that Lauren keeps saying this is that like is implying that I'm like recording me people or recording me like sexual stuff or something like that. That's how she like implies it. When Lauren says that over and over again, that's what she's referring to.
The response he gave on Reddit as well as in his stream come off as absurd, like he's the victim.
A lot of vulture culture streams tonight. A lot of cloud hungry people that wanted to spend 12 hours reacting to this are going to be very disappointed, and I'm sure they'll have their own conspiratorial reasons for why I'm saying what I am saying.
His friends have all disavowed him. His podcast host says he told his wife to leave him.
I'll say this also. I think Steven was a really shitty husband to Melina. Okay, I'm coming out here saying it right now. I don't think Steve would deny it either, but it's not good the way that he was. Like, I talked to Melina a lot of times and she was crying and miserable and everything else. And Steve would say, what do you want me to say? I'm a selfish motherfucker. That's why I'm in the relationship that I'm in. He was like, you know, what should I do? Should I leave? And I'll tell you this, I never was like, I was never like, no, you should stay and make things out. I told her multiple times, like, listen, if you feel like this is an abusive relationship, get out of there immediately.
Acting like he's betrayed because nobody reached out to him.
I want to write up a list of all the people, actually, hold on, because there were some people that messaged me to like figure out like what was actually going on before they kind of decided to do all this like crazy public stuff about it. I just want to read off a list of those people. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, and that's all of them.
So my question here would be like, okay, well, how many of the people in your orbit that made videos or did streams talking about the situation, like how many of these people would you consider like good friends? I had private discussions with like other creators. Other creators had reached out to me and they were like, hey, are you going to reach out to him and say anything? And I was like, no, why would I? If I was his close friend, you know, or like, you know, even like a good friend or whatever, then I think that would be appropriate. Like I've had difficult conversations with people in my sphere in the past when allegations have come up. There have been people that have had allegations raised against them, and I reached out to that person and said like, hey, what's going on with this? But with somebody who's not your friend, I don't know like why. I don't like it. It's not appropriate. Do you know what I mean? And there was already enough in the public where there was already information that was public that formed enough of a basis to come to a certain opinion. Like I didn't really need a lot of feedback, but it's not up to people. Like it's not up to like what essentially amounts to work friends, casual work friends. It's not up to them to like reach out and like help you through a situation like that, I guess. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? If I had allegations come up about me and people were making content about those allegations, would I expect someone that I'm not close with to reach out to me and try to, I'm just like, you know, I wouldn't have that expectation, right? Even if it's somebody that I've met a few times, but I'm still like if that person's a close friend, that's one thing. If it's just like a casual friendship or someone that you don't know that well, you know, that's not really like my job to reach out in that way. Do you know what I mean?
It was a little bit shocking as well, but okay.
So I reached out confronting him, asking him pointed questions, and his answers were disappointing. So much so it made me wonder why he would want anyone to reach out at all. His enemies would use all of this to take victory laps on Destiny.
First of all, okay, I would say that I'm pretty confident that everyone who was featured in these videos also sent videos of them and other people as well. But nobody talks about that.
Okay. classic, I just made up a no you defense, but that's cool.
Hassan is getting a W over the guy who was trying to get him banned for the past 3 months. Painful. Destiny would throw away all of his credibility because he wanted to goon. This is the sort of video I finish and I just want to shake my head.
Hutch, I like you. I like your show. I don't understand your take on this. Destiny wasn't saying he'd like people to reach out on a personal level to comfort him. He was saying, essentially, if you're going to report on this situation, why would you not reach out to both sides for comment before you start commenting? I think the issue there is, like, again, there was enough information in the public square to come to certain conclusions. That seemed like, I'm not sure what he could come out and say at this point that would disprove that he shared nudes of people without their consent. And again, that is at the core of what people are criticizing him for, what people are calling attention to, is that specific behavior. The rest of the details or whatever, if there was reporting where a minor detail here or there was wrong, I don't think that's as important as like the actual like allegations themselves.
Head and disappointment. I need Z-Biotic pre-alcohol to get through this.
Like, why do I need clarity when I can see him in his own plain text saying, I know, really f***ed up, I know what I did is wrong. You know, I don't know what clarification I need. That's another good point. I doubt Destiny reaches out to every public person he talks about on his stream. That's another fair point.
Rudy, we all have busy lives and we can't waste a day stuck inside sitting on the couch because we had a couple drinks the night before. Video. For background information, all of these leaks are coming from a 19-year-old girl named Rose is Coming.
That kind of shit is literally disgusting. That he would try to trap a little girl, and I don't want to be presumptuous. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if this upsets you because you're 19, or I'm sorry if this upsets you because you're 22 or something, right? Or if you're some legal guy or whatever, you know, when you're 19, you're a little kid, okay? Now, if you're 22, a 19-year-old's not a kid to you, okay? I'm 29. A 19-year-old might as well be a 15-year-old to me. It's all the fucking same, dude.
Well, now he's 36 and still talking to 19-year-olds. This Rose person rather get hacked or leak the videos herself. We still
A rather unfortunate juxtaposition.
Don't know for sure, and all of these people's most embarrassing moments are now cemented online. Now, it's worth noting that Destiny didn't share these images because he wanted to embarrass anyone. He was trying to goon with Rose.
Just because of some legal age of consent, whatever bullshit, I have about as much in with like an 18-year-old, 19 freshman in school as I would have fucking saw.
They mentioned you on the Majority Report today? Wait, what? Oh dear. What did I say? What did I do? Is it bad? I've been fighting with a lot of leftists lately. I'm trying to take that down a notch.
Sophomore in high school. Any type of inclination towards any of those people is really fucking weird.
I'm listening to clips of Destiny from last year defending himself from women saying that he's secretly recording them.
Lauren keeps like typing messages that make it sound like I'm secretly recording people having sex. That's what it sounds like.
And then, oh look, what am I seeing on Twitter? This girl named Sherry saying Destiny secretly recorded her and shared it with people. One of the leaked DMs is Destiny showing audio of a dude he hooked up with, saying this just ended with him finishing. Again, audio's scuffed because my phone was in my
They said you were the Dave Rubin of the left? Okay, I don't believe you now. Now you're just making stuff up. Stop.
pocket. It was in your pocket. Was it there because he didn't know you were recording? This guy did an entire arc arguing with red pillars on boundaries with his wife and how you should treat women.
I don't believe you. There's no way. I don't believe you.
One of the victims was Pixie, who heavily trusted Destiny. She described herself as extremely sexually inexperienced and sheltered. I had multiple long conversations regarding consent and boundaries with Destiny. Has all of these conversations about consent and boundaries and then does this without consent. Amazing. The fact that Destiny didn't maliciously share these videos might matter legally. That will have to be determined, but it doesn't really matter for the victims, now does it? Their nudes are out there for their parents, employers, and friends to see. The leaks happened in November. By the end of December, Kiwi Farms, as well as many other creators, knew who the participants were. There were group chats talking about it. The most prominent victim in this story, Pixie, confronted Destiny about sharing her nudes without consent. I'm super sorry, there's literally zero excuses. In DMs, Aaron wrote to Destiny, you didn't leak it maliciously, you distributed it non-consensually. Yeah, I know, I have severely damaged her. Confirm
that, so like that DM is really like, that is the thing that establishes that material harm was done. I just don't know what he could do to sort of nitpick around the edges of the details, because he said he's going to come out with some kind of a statement this week or whatever. I don't know what he can do to kind of nitpick around the edges that would take away from that like central like violation that is like at the core of what people were upset about.
I mean, yes, he did do this, making him come off like a
What is your opinion of Sam Cedar? You know, he says Trump is better on Gaza than Kamala. I have a hard time believing that. So Sam Cedar, I think is, I generally think he's one of the good ones. I think that he surrounds himself with people whose takes I don't love. Like, I think like Emma Vigeland, I think is like a bit of a mixed bag. Like, I don't necessarily like dislike her. I dislike some of her takes, and I like a lot of her takes as well. Sam Cedar, I think his critiques have been, for the most part, I think like, I don't know if I've ever seen an unreasonable critique from him. I was definitely a big fan of Majority Report back in like 2020, but I didn't love their coverage of the Biden stuff. And but generally speaking, I think that Sam Cedar is like a really positive force for the left. I really don't believe you when you say that he said that Trump is better on Gaza than Kamala. Like, I feel like that has to be a distorted quote, because that would be pretty egregious in my opinion.
A complete fraud. He has hours of content telling people how to live their lives, that they have no moral standards. Meanwhile, he's going on trips to Israel with his friend Lonerbox while pocketing nudes of a girl he was having a thing with. There's a video of Pixie's dad thanking Destiny for being a good friend.
First of all, many thanks for being a friend to my daughter.
Yeah, no problem.
She doesn't have any friends.
That's not true. You're so
she has a
mean.
shit ton of friends.
Okay.
But she appreciates your friendship.
Oh my
and I appreciate that.
That one's pretty brutal.
Thanks. Well, I try my best. I'm a friendly person, you know.
Bruh, this is painful to watch. Pixie is talking to Kyla here. They're friends, but Kyla has a conflict of interest. Her and her husband moved from Canada to work with Destiny. They uprooted their whole lives for this. Pixie emphasizes Steven has to face the consequences proportional to his actions. I want this to be the most expensive mistake of his life. I'm essentially asking him to punish himself in a way I don't think he will or agree with without the law getting involved. I don't have a dollar amount from the top of my head. It just has to be enough for the rest of his life. If he thinks of the word nude, he associates it with the amount of money he lost.
This is so valid, man. I saw some people jumping on this, you know. I don't know if I'm glad that I didn't see like a ton of people jumping on this, but I did see some people jumping on this as a means to try to discredit her or malign her. Yet everything that I'm reading in here, in my opinion, is completely valid. To want somebody to suffer that kind of consequence for violating you, completely valid. The impulse to want recompense in a situation like that is a very human experience. Like, how you apologize is just as important as making the apology itself. It's not enough to just go to someone, or like, if you have harmed me in some way, or if you've hurt me in some way, and you come up and you say, hey, listen, I'm sorry. That's not enough for me. Like, if someone comes to apologize, I need some kind of an explanation. Like, I need some kind of like, hey, here's this thing that I did, and here's how it hurt you. And I was wrong to do that, and therefore I apologize. Typically, when somebody does that, when takes those steps, I'm inclined to forgive a lot. You know, maybe it takes me time, like, hey, I appreciate you saying that. I need a little space or whatever, but I'm almost always gonna forgive someone when they phrase it like that, because it's important to the person who has been hurt to see genuine remorse. Like, there has to be some kind of demonstration of accountability. And so to me, when I read this text, there's nothing untoward or improper about her phrasing it this way.
$1 million is a price that gets thrown around in later DMs, and upon reading that, me and a lot of other people initially laughed, but then I thought about it. If somebody leaked my nudes, I would want their head. I can't have that, so $1 million from a millionaire sounds fair enough. Kyla then starts to look like she's protecting Destiny in these messages. It wasn't clear to me before that this is what you wanted specifically. My understanding is it was more of a sense of rehabilitation. Now, this was only one leak. You know how many times he's probably shared these nudes and not gotten caught? But Kyla's like, Pixie, you don't understand. He's super sorry. In an interview Kyla gave Tom, it comes off as her looking out for Destiny.
Just to me, like, recording somebody and then without their knowledge and leaking it is like a full-on, like, it's a pretty like sexually invasive crime. Leaking somebody's nudes, I think, is also really bad. To be clear, I think it is really bad. But the issue is that I think it's fundamentally just a more common issue that people do. It's definitely, in my experience, not the first time that somebody has like leaked nudes. I think it's not okay. Like, when you hear about like guys like showing other guys.
I think maybe the way that she expressed this sentiment was a bit inelegant, but who honestly disagrees that there's like a spectrum of impropriety and that some actions are just much, much worse than other actions? I think that's pretty much the gist of what she's saying. Like, if he would have taken someone's nudes and then uploaded them to a site that other people could access, that action would be demonstrably worse than what he actually did. I think maybe it kind of sounds like in that moment you could mistake what she's saying as her minimizing what he did. I don't think that that's what she's trying to do. And I think the point that she's making is accurate. Of course, there are worse violations.
Hits that some girls shunter. Like I think it's gross, and there's a reason I don't look at it.
I mean that's I agree it's less severe, but
So
this
that's
isn't
why-
this,
that's
but this
why
isn't
the
a bunch of
line's
this isn't a bunch of high schoolers, right? This is a 35-year-old guy who's doing this.
Sure, but the law and morals are different, right?
Boys will be boys is a crazy statement coming from someone whose last video is about feminism. She's like, only if Destiny does the worst thing
Ooh, I think this is kind of unfair.
possible. Will it matter to me?
The way I'm getting painted here is like really, really far from the truth, and I don't really know why.
You look like Ghislaine Maxwell.
I know.
Brutal. She says that Steven showed accountability and a step-by-step plan on how he was going to correct all of this.
Basically, the moment that I saw like remorsefulness, accountability, and like a step-by-step plan of like how he was going to correct the issue, that's when I was like, okay, I can still work with this person.
Mira, what's up?
The try and the accountability that matters to me.
What was his plan? Because all I saw was Destiny blaming his actions on being off of Vibe.
Well, how could you know? You're not privy to their private conversations. You know, they had in-person friendship. You know, they spoke so you're not going to be like fully aware of everything that went on in the background. And so this idea that like, because I never saw any, you know, sincere acts of contrition or what I would consider to be sincere acts of contrition, you know, because I didn't see any of that in the DMs, that means those conversations never happened. I just don't think that's fair.
Apparently, if he's off of his meds, he doesn't have to respect people's privacy. Interesting symptoms. I want to point out
she didn't say that though. I just don't think that's fair because she did not say that. There was nothing in what she said that expressed that.
Pixie stands by that Kyla was being a good friend despite how she comes off. It's worth acknowledging that. When this story hit the wider public, Destiny gave a statement on Reddit. He titled it Legal Arc Beginning in Mysterious Ways. Such wow. Which shows how unserious he is about this whole thing. Like, what if he gets criminally convicted? Will he label that his prison arc? He says he had no intention of these images or videos leaking, and that he hasn't spoken up for the following reasons. He was going to pursue litigation, most likely against the hacker and sites hosting the leaks. And that
I can only speculate, but I think I think Destiny's impulse to joke about the situation or to otherwise make light of it. I think the reason for that is if you make yourself vulnerable in a situation like that, especially when your brand has been about bloodsport politics, bloodsport debate, really intense rhetoric, intense conflict with other people. If you make yourself vulnerable and you just drop the facade of all the jokes and if you get straight down to like, hey, you know, like I made this horrible mistake and I regretted it a lot and blah, blah, blah. People will use that as ammunition against you. And I can only speculate, but what I see happening right now as far as like how Destiny is dealing with it is like he's using the humor thing as like a shield against that. I think maybe I'm not a therapist, so I can't diagnose, but maybe I feel like maybe he feels like if he were to get vulnerable and to not make jokey jokes, that would like really damage him, that people would use that against him.
that he didn't want to bring publicity to the material. 3. I've been trying to move on from covering drama content as it has had an increasingly negative impact on those in my life. You want to move on? Now that the drama's about you, it's not fun anymore? People always act like they're above covering drama when they become the subject matter. 4. One person involved has expressed suicidal thoughts in relation to the matter, and I did not want to exacerbate the situation by talking about it publicly. Now that's a nice sentiment, but it's already all out there. The real reason he's quiet is because it's going through litigation. I can't help but roll my eyes when I read parts of this. I increasingly felt uncomfortable by the language being used regarding to financial punishment and wanting to teach me a lesson, along with constant references to the precariousness of someone's mental health. You're being punished. It's not supposed to be comfortable. You know it's bad when the top comment is, I wish my streamer watched horse porn instead.
I want to f a woman as a horse.
I can't believe Destiny gave this guy a W. And his return stream wasn't any better, using the same song Dr. Disrespect came back with.
Jeez. Jeez.
Destiny's response isn't great. He's since banned all the alleged victims from his community.
I didn't know that. Jesus Christ, bro.
Bro, if I need to go on the sex offender list, I'm taking 20 other streamers with me. Okay, lol W. Who are these 20 other streamers? Is there a Google Drive where perverts on Twitch upload other people's nudes? I repeat, how—
Nothing about this is funny, nothing. So just so we are clear, you're explaining why he may be doing it, not condoning it. I'm not condoning it. Yeah, I don't know if you just joined, but I'm saying, like, in an alternative universe, like, the only way that I think I would have, like, allowed myself in the future to maybe associate with Destiny again, it was just if he were to take a full accounting of what happened. If I were like a close friend, I would probably counsel that person to, like, take a break for a little bit, go talk to people, like, get help. Like, this is not a small thing that happened. It's not a small violation. But when I give my take about, like, why I think Destiny is reacting the way that he is, I'm certainly not condoning it. I don't know if that wasn't clear, but yeah.
How long has this been going on for? How sorry could he be? Not very if he's been covering for 20 other streamers doing the same thing. But then I'm seeing Destiny's co-host Dan on one hand disavowing Destiny for what he did, and then on the other hand threatening acquaintances.
If you're one of my coworkers out there and you're making your little bit of a strong statement about how much you condemn Destiny and everything else, you better not let me find you doing something else and signing some other bullshit off for someone else, or you know, being weak. Because if that's gonna be the case, either be all the way in or all the way out. Okay, that's all I'm gonna tell you. All these half in the door mother, too much of a pussy to do anything else. Like, I get it, fine. If you're a content creator, you rely on this for your life, then fine. Then off. Then say that Destiny's a rapist, pervert, all that type of shit, and go away forever. And that's what you should do, and off permanently. Same front there, I will say that I think that Steve has changed a lot, especially over the last year, where he is not like that type of person anymore. You guys don't see it because you don't know who he is.
People don't want to hear about how much he's changed when this is all—
I mean, that's fair. People can change. People can do terrible things and change. I've talked about this a lot, but, you know, I'm in recovery circles, you guys. I've been in recovery collectively for about 10 years of my life. You know, meetings, 12-step programs, et cetera, and you hear crazy stories when you go to meetings. You hear people talk about their lives when they were at their lowest. You hear people talk openly about hurting other people, doing things that are morally reprehensible when they're at the height of their addiction. And I have known people that have literally been in the streets of San Francisco shooting heroin, and now they have like a doctorate in psychology. And I know them, I've known them for 2 decades, and they're like incredibly like morally sound people that go out of their way to not hurt people. Like, redemption arcs do exist, but that doesn't mean that— I feel like if you're in this spot, you should expect that people are going to put distance between you and them. Like, there's no reason why another content creator, especially one that's not like friends with you, there's no reason why anyone should expect that those people are going to stick their neck out and remain loyal in a situation like this. Like, for what? Like, what, you know, why is that difficult to wrap your head around? I don't know. I just feel like that, these are the consequences. Like, your actions have consequences. And sometimes when your actions are bad enough and those consequences are made public, or your decisions are made public, then the consequence is going to be you're going to be a little bit isolated. But addiction is less a moral failing than it is a physiological disorder once it has its hooks in. Well, that's true.
Chad, it's difficult being a recovering Aquaman enthusiast. He spent years being skewered for that opinion and still holds it today. Through educational reprogramming, he will eventually end his Aquaman love and state that Lord of the Rings is the great—
I will never withdraw my opinion that Aquaman is a solid like B, maybe B+ movie. Just a solid popcorn flick. I will never withdraw that.
Just happened.
But if you think that you're going to say a strong statement, say that you're not with him right now, and come back in 2 months, fuck you, is what I have to say. You're worse than anyone. You're definitely worse than me. At least I'm honest about the situation. I've known the dude for 15 years. I can say that what he did was up. He knows what he did was up. He knows that he has to change, and he knows he's going to have fucking consequences for it. But for fucking you, you're just a fucking weasel. All these motherfuckers that did this whole shit, all the way in, all the way out.
I feel like Dan's putting the cart before the horse here a little bit. He's just assuming that, and maybe he's right. He's assuming that a lot of the creators that are making these videos now are going to come back for the clout. Like, you know, everything's going to blow over in 2 months and then people are going to come back for the clout. Maybe that's true for some. I mean, it's probably true for some, but it seems like he's like, I don't know, maybe this clip needs more context, but I don't know what kind of like premise he's establishing here. I mean, if we take it at face value, what he's saying, I think is fine. Like, either be all the way in or all the way out. Like, if you do like a video criticizing Destiny for what he did, don't come to them 2 months from now and be like, hey, can I get a spot on the podcast? I mean, sure, that's fine. It just seems like kind of like a peculiar thing to focus on right now in this moment.
These motherfuckers try to come back in after they've done their little strong weasel statement, doing it. That noise.
How do you know he's changed, Dan? Did you know?
How is it a weasel statement to say, I think what Destiny did was completely unacceptable? It seems like, I don't know if this is what he's intentionally doing. And again, I don't know if the clip needs more context, but it seems like he's assuming that like everybody is being insincere about their critique is what it comes across as to me.
He was doing this? It's such an odd statement. How is Dan playing both sides this hard? So unless you stand by Destiny, you can't ever engage with him again. It's about to be a very lonely career. Abba called out Destiny, pointing out that this was always where his lifestyle was going to lead, and says that he has no respect for anyone he's intimate with.
I think that people look at some of the standard markers for trouble and they, for some reason, project a ton of stuff onto me, but I think I'm living like one of the healthiest, fullest lives that I possibly could be.
You know, constantly having poor relationships with women over a long period of time, or in other situations, STDs, different things like that. Eventually that hedonism comes back to bite them in the life, and they also recognize they could have invested that time a lot better.
No, shut up, Melina, shut up. Let him talk. What do you mean? Constantly
hold.
Anything you do in life.
I thought Abba's video on the whole situation was actually quite good. He was just very matter of fact, very pointed in his criticism, said that this wasn't really anything new, and just made no bones about like, he's like, I just can't associate with him after this. There's just no way I can do it. And so I can't make any excuses for it. What he did was up. Just a really straight. I think Abba and Preacher are very strong as creators. I think they make like really good videos.
That's going to increase like your ability to like have fun or do like crazy stuff or whatever is always going to carry with it like the risk of death, right?
Absolutely.
Like you have no chance of dying by falling out of a plane unless you go skydiving, but that's not an argument against never skydiving.
But it is an argument against maybe skydiving 1,000 times if you don't want to die that way.
If you want to skydive 1,000 times, then can skydive 1,000 times. Like what's wrong? Damn, what happened to all the self-empowerment shit that you guys were talking about earlier? If your lifestyle choices are like, damn, I would never want to deal with like a crazy girl or anything like that, that's totally valid. I think that's totally fine. I accept that that's probably true for most people. But like, I'm
Annie talking about what Dan said, it comes across as a threat as well. Like you're blacklisted to us permanently, even if there's legit rehabilitation. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think that was even subtle subtext there.
Okay with the trade-off on that for like all the benefits that I get. I like f***ing a lot of people. I like traveling a lot. I like doing drugs. I like my stream shit. That's like super fun for me. To be like, well, doesn't bad stuff happen sometimes so you shouldn't do it? That doesn't compute to me.
Or to others, because I think the main thing with this is you have to think about.
Guys, I remember back in like 2010 when the internet kind of gaming space was getting bigger. I remember thinking to myself like, wait a second. This thing is becoming so big that we're going to start to see at some point like YouTube creator sex scandals. Like I remember like this was like before that was a thing. And I was like, wait, that is inevitable. Like at some point there's going to be like sex scandals, which is just kind of like quaint in retrospect because now there's been about 1 billion. But back then, iFly was the first one. There was this guy named iFly Illini, I think was his name. And he was a Call of Duty creator and didn't really get a ton of views, but then made a video about another creator exposing that this other creator was like basically gaming the system in really improper ways. Like there was this other creator that was using like very similar thumbnails to other people and very similar titles to other people and made a very compelling case against this other creator that they were basically like leeching views in an unethical way. And then that video got a ton of views. Well, back then it was like a ton of views. That video got like, I want to say like 250, 500,000 views. And iFly made the mistake that I've seen a lot of creators make, which was like they had 1 or 2 videos that kind of blew up and then they quit their jobs. They were like, okay, I've made it. I'm going to quit my 9 to 5 and I'm just going to pour everything into content creation, which is you should really be able to support yourself for like 6 to 9 months, maybe even longer at this point. You should be able to be in a position to fully support yourself for like a really long time before you quit your day job. But he quit his day job, and then the views just like really fell off. Like those 2 videos that he made about this other creator, just that was kind of like his zenith. And then the views just went down, 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 and found himself in a really, I imagine, financially stressful situation, and then became a chatterbait model, which got exposed. And then he just like lost his marriage and stopped posting on YouTube. It's actually kind of a tragic story. Because I don't think his wife knew that that's what he was doing. But it's really, that was so risky. Like, did you not evaluate that you could get caught doing something like that? Like, I'm not against like sex work or whatever. If you want to do that, if you want to make money like masturbating on Chatterbait, I don't think there's anything morally wrong with that. But he was kind of trying to do it secretly and not tell his wife, and then it all blew up, and then it was just, yeah.
The activity involves hurting others. Like even Destiny
tried to be a DJ afterwards. Jesus.
Probably can admit he's broken a lot of hearts. He's disappointed a lot of women. He's made a lot of people upset. It's not just how he feels about it. When you involve other people in this kind of pursuit of pleasure, other people get hurt as well. I stand by what I said at the beginning. I don't feel bad for Steven whatsoever because he knew what he was getting into. He was brazen about it. When he was warned, when he said, hey, this is a bad idea, this is a bad lifestyle, he said, I don't care, I want to have fun. It's fun for me. That's why I like these mentally ill women.
He's had this public view for years. But no, guys, Dan and Kyla says he's changed in the past month.
If you're currently hanging out with like a streamer that does like denial all day, every day, or that has someone on a DUI or something along those lines, like it's gonna be that once we find that out, I think that's like gonna be kind of a rough one to be like why you threw someone under the bus just for clout.
Such a weird threat to throw out there to try and keep people in line. Well, I've hung out with a person who got a DUI, Dan. What are you gonna do about it? So I reached out to Destiny for some clarification. There's no point in even reading them to you because he copy and pasted the same response to every question, that he doesn't want to comment farther until he's past litigation. He clarifies, I'm aware that these answers are super unsatisfying, and it sucks it looks super guilty for me to respond this way. And even this might be saying too much, but any statement that I make could become part of a record for any court case, for any number of things that are foreseen and unforeseen to me right now. And there's a possibility that I say something that feels true, but ends up not being true in the future. He then gives an example on how seemingly throwaway comments can lead to big consequences in court. He's right, because honestly, what is he supposed to do? Incriminate himself? He's going to let the legal process play out. So I asked Destiny if there was any false narratives being pushed, and if there was anything he wanted me to say that wasn't already public. He replied with people validating prior individuals who are insane, despite there being no evidence to validate them, is crazy conspiratorial nonsense. I assume
he's talking about Cherry there.
Mr. Girl's document where he lists every girl who has ever had a problem with Destiny. Destiny continues, there's obviously multiple affected parties, but it's rich that all of these people who cry about cancel culture and innocent until proven guilty have no problems making the most insane assumptions about a man and have
I think the argument where you're trying to like invalidate a lot of these women because they're quote unquote crazy, I think that falls flat a little bit when you have like a pattern. Like if you have someone that has a pattern of like dysfunctional breakups, like anybody, like I'm just saying as a rule of thumb, if you know guys that have had like 10 breakups and all 10 of them were really bad breakups where there's a ton of bad blood with the person who they're breaking up with, that's a pattern that reflects on the person. That's a pattern that reflects on the guy. And so it undermines the credibility of that argument. Well, you can't listen to them. They're crazy. It's like, well, wait a second. There's like 7. And in the case of Destiny, it's like I want to say it's like 20 or 30 or whatever. Like if you have a list that long, then it's a lot harder to take that claim at face value. Well, you can't listen to them. They're crazy. It's like, well, there's like 10 people saying the same thing here.
No problem engaging with people who are insanely toxic when it comes to male victims of any kind of weird sexual shit. He defended himself a bit more on Twitter against Nick, saying, I didn't admit to anything.
Nah, this is a special case. Destiny purposefully hung out with a lot of weirdos. But at that point, what makes you distinct from them? Like if you have a habit of hanging out with or establishing some kind of a sexual relationship or some kind of like any kind of relationship, romantic or sexual, if you have a pattern of being in relationships with people that are really unstable, then I think that by default makes you unstable. Like, I don't know if you're in a separate category from them. You know what I mean? Like, you're not more stable than them, you know?
You can just read the messages where Destiny says, yeah, I know, I've damaged her severely. Nobody cares about you being the victim because you caused all of this. There is no expectation for Kiwi Farms being the good guy. They have the leaks because you shared them with Rose. He goes on to say that people named Lav and Kelly Jean have been distributing his nudes, revenge porn in the literal truest sense. How many crazy women are part of this guy's life? At what point can I victim blame him? Ryan Beard's telling a story about how some girl named Anna is stalking you and your solution was to sext her.
He did stalk me.
That she locked. Okay, then why are you sexting with her still?
We're cool. We've been cool for a year, Max.
Okay, so you acknowledge that you've been sexting with her for a year.
Yeah, we've had on and off, sure. Max, can you acknowledge that I haven't said anything bad about her for a year? I've said we've been fine. I've said that over.
The last time I talked to you about her, like 2 weeks ago.
Why was all this? I missed a lot of this lore, you guys. I have no idea who Lav is or any like. Why was this conversation being held on a stream? Exactly. Like, why is this a public conversation? I just don't understand it. Why would this play out on a public platform? That's just so bizarre to me.
Or 16 days ago or something, you said that she locked you in the basement of her mind and it was a traumatic experience for you. Locked you in the basement of her mind.
In the past. In the past, Max.
Oh, okay.
Why? Tell me, Max, why hasn't Anna come forward with any of this information now? Can you tell me, or do you want me to tell everybody why?
I don't want to speak on her behalf.
Okay, I will. It's because she said she literally wants to remain friends with me.
He had his whole...
Most content creators are broken human beings. I don't know if I would generalize that much, but I think like the instinct to do content creation and to like pour yourself into an online platform, I think like for like a lot of people, it's a very kind of business professional, kind of by the numbers, straightforward business strategy. So they're in kind of like a separate category, like Mr. Beast. No, like Hector. Well, I shouldn't say Hector. Hector, like, I'm not suggesting that Hector is like paint by numbers because he's very artistic. You've seen his graffiti, and if you've seen like the effort that he puts into his vlogs, he's very like, he's into the creative aspect of it too. But there are definitely a lot of content creators, and you could kind of like guess that this would be the case, but there are a lot of content creators that get something from the interaction with their communities that maybe they were missing in their own lives, particularly during like formative years. That is for sure a thing. How many content creators do you know of that were in a really conventional way, like unattractive when they were kids or they got picked on, and then they found the content creation thing, and then, you know, their lives after that is like a very stark contrast. And that's something that I can identify with on certain level. Like I'm a little bit better. Actually, I'm a lot better about like boundaries between myself and my work now. Now I very consciously there's like a separate me outside of all of this. Like you guys get like a certain side of me, and then I have this other separate part of me that is off limits. That's like mine, you know, like there's like a clear separation of my work life and my personal life, but that wasn't always the case. I was talking to Esme about, we're getting a little bit on a tangent here because we're taking away from the video, but just to do a little bit of a tangent, I was talking about it with Esme this weekend. Like I'm getting older and a lot of things in my life are in retrospect starting to make a lot of sense. Like I've gone through periods of my life that were very chaotic, and I felt like I had no understanding of my own kind of place in the world at the time. And then when I look back, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. For me growing up, it was about like, I think like when other kids were focused on their own kind of development, like being better athletes or being better students or thinking about their future, or you know, that kind of like I guess a conventional path of like self-actualization that you're on everybody's on when they were a kid. I was singularly focused on how do I get people to like me. So when I went to school, I wasn't thinking about what I was learning. I was not thinking about my future. It was all just like me seeking validation from my peers because I got picked on a lot when I was a kid. Like a lot. When I was a kid, I was the least popular kid in my class. I was really hyper. I couldn't really stay focused. I would act out a lot, and people were like, who the f is this kid, right? And then like my development. So instead of focusing on these other things, you know, my own like personal goals or whatever, my only goal in life was to get people to like me. It was like, how do I get people to stop making fun of me? And even better, how do I get people to like me? And that was something that persisted even through my like early adulthood. So in my 20s, when I was hanging out with friends, you know, you get out of high school and you get out of grade school, and there's just not the same kind of like schoolyard bullying. So that hypervigilance is not necessary. But I would be hanging out with people that I considered friends, but On the inside, I felt like I had snuck into a party, and at any moment someone was going to figure out that I snuck in and they were going to kick me out. Does that make sense? I had a sense that I didn't belong. I guess that would be the most fundamental way of describing it. And so I never really got to be authentically me. It was always who I was always in relation to the people I was hanging around with. I suspect a lot of people understand what that feels like. A little bit of imposter syndrome, I guess, is what you might call that. A little bit, yeah. But it was like all encompassing. Like imposter syndrome, I feel like is more specific to, you know, your career or whatever, like specific things. It was like my entire life was like an imposter syndrome. And so, you know, things got better and I did form friendships and, you know, I let some of that stuff go. But by the time I blew up on YouTube, there was still a lot of that residual insecurity. And so, you know, all of a sudden, almost like overnight, I mean, it took like a year to build up the YouTube channel till it reached critical mass. But like once I crossed that threshold and all of a sudden people like wanted to be my friend, like other creators are like, hey, Hutch, you want to do a video with me? And like everyone's like, not everyone, but like a lot of people on the internet are like saying that I'm awesome. And it felt euphoric. It felt like I was getting those needs met. It was like I was like back in 5th grade. And instead of people making fun of me, they were saying that, oh, you're funny. I like you, blah, 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 blah. It felt like, how do I describe it? It felt like an abyss. So I got lost in that and then it sucked me down. And then I was just as lost as I was before. And then it took like a couple years. But eventually I realized like, wait a second, this isn't making me happy. This isn't making me happy in the way that I thought it would. This isn't completing me as a person the way that I thought it would. And then after like a couple years, I felt like I was just as lost as I was when I was in fifth grade. I was like, and it all boils down to like, who the am I? Am I like a Call of Duty montage person? Am I a Machinima Respawn person? Am I I just lost the thread. I was like, I have no idea how to authentically be myself. I guess, so I apologize for the long tangent, but I feel like it's only been in really like the last few years that I've started to feel like really authentically me. And I don't feel this pressure to be anything else, but it was a long process, anyways, sorry. That was my rant. That was my little rant there. I wouldn't say that all content creators are really broken people, but I do think a lot of broken people go towards content creation in the pursuit of trying to fill this like hole that's inside of them. And it kind of makes sense, right? Like it kind of makes sense. But yeah.
Whole community feeling bad for him being stalked as he was doing this. There are parts of streams where he's condemning people for sharing nudes non-consensually.
Yeah, you know, me and Melina have problems, but I don't think
Show us your cock.
I'm not going to do that.
But all of this, I'm not running around screen sharing people's nudes.
Bro, this shows that he knows this was bad. He was using this to expose someone. The embarrassing part about this drama isn't that a video leaked of Destiny sucking an Oscar Mayer, it's that he's thrown away his credibility. He comes off like a fraud. We did speak in an off-the-record voice call. It was not recorded, and he was giving off the vibe that things might not be what they seem, but because of litigation, I couldn't know what he was referring to. I certainly couldn't just blindly believe him. You look at his social media, and he's memeing about the whole thing, posting himself dressed as Dr. Disrespect. Yeah, Dan and Kyla, you're right. Destiny's totally rehabilitated and remorseful over this whole thing.
But I just feel like he's being so uncharitable to Kyla because Kyla cut ties, which that could not have been an easy decision. Because Kyla had these goals, had this vision in mind. She seems like a very goal-oriented person. She's been working very hard to build this business with Steven, and that's been her life. She's like poured herself into that for the last, 2 or 3 years? And then to make the decision to say, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try to do something new. And everything that I worked for, I have to just let that go. And then go and chart into the unknown. The amount of like fear and stress that would go into a decision like that. And I don't think he's given her credit for it. She cut ties. She said she's not doing the pod with Destiny.
It's very obvious. So is Destiny's career over because of this? Well, if Tim Pool can frame himself as a patriot while secretly taking Russian money, Vosh can say Lolly makes you a while having a folder full of lolly, Hassan can frame himself as more credible than the media while reporting every story wrong, and Tyler Oliveira can pretend to be a journalist while just making up stories on the spot, then why wouldn't Destiny recover from this? Let's be honest, the real punishment is Hassan will bring this up every chance he gets.
I can't believe that there are still Destiny fans in here. He kind of made you, though. Why you so ungrateful he brought you in? No. Why not just talk it out, bro? He was your friend at one point. Dude, I don't know if you understand. We're having a conversation about this dude serially making sex tapes of the people he sometimes consensually and sometimes non-consensually records and is unconsensually sending to other people that he wants to fuck. And you're like, why don't you become friends with that guy again? I don't know, because he's gross.
And Hassan is totally right. You know how hard that is to say? Again, if you're a left-leaning political viewer, your options are cooked. But seriously, it seems like if you have a political audience, you could get away with anything. You have Joe Biden's millionaire drug-fueled son getting pardoned after he said he wouldn't do it, and Donald Trump, our current sitting president, was part of an electoral scheme. But no,
Why are these? Okay, I'm gonna nitpick now. Why are these two things even in the same sentence? Like the Hunter Biden pardon and the Donald Trump false elector schemes are so far apart in terms of actual impact. It seems like, I don't know if he's intending to, but it seems like he's conflating these two as evidence of you know, like both sides equally bad, I guess. But the January 6th stuff was so much worse than Hunter Biden going on a crack bender for like 3 years, banging a bunch of hookers and buying a gun and failing to file his taxes.
This is when political audiences finally take a stand. Sure, these audiences will excuse every
left-leaning political streamers are practically non-existent. I mean, that's not true. But the lion's share of left-leaning streamers are leftists. So like the biggest streamers are Vosh, Denims, Mike from PA, Hassan. I mean, you had Destiny. Well, you still have Destiny, right? But it like center left or progressive liberals are just a much smaller share of the pool, and it's just the stuff that rises to the top is like the anti-establishment stuff.
Everything because they think the ends.
Vandred with $5 politically, wouldn't building an alliance be more beneficial? One of our criticisms is fracturing of the left is morality, too much ground to give. I mean, just everybody has their own thresholds. Like, I'm not going to tell another creator that I think they're morally bad if they want to continue associating with Destiny. But for me, I can't justify it. Like, I feel like it would reflect poorly on me. And so I choose to burn that bridge, you know. Thankfully I'm a little bit more on my own like island. You know, I do collaborate with other people from time to time. I have like a podcast now or whatever, but for the most part, I kind of stick to myself. So it wasn't a particularly difficult challenge or a difficult decision to make. But for me, yeah, I felt like it would reflect poorly on me if I continued to like associate with him.
Justifies the means. Hearing Lonerbox lay out his 2025 aspirations is hilarious until you realize how true it is.
I look forward to some time coming back when I can like brand myself as the only remaining political streamer who doesn't have sex scandals and doesn't support terrorists.
Hey, I'm right here. I'm right here. What am I, minced meat?
For some reason, it's always one or the other.
They're very musical people.
Are you being serious?
Dog, what do you look? You think I made this?
This isn't music. I don't.
I'm literally right here, man.
This isn't a music video, Hassan.
No, it is. They do musicals about like their like their.
I did have the sock sex scandal. Where was that? What other sex scandals did I have? No, my life is like pretty boring now, but in a good way. I like being bored. It's nice.
Actions all the time.
Yeah, they're militarized.
I broke my penis with a fleshlight. That's true. Be careful. That's all I'm saying. Just be careful with those things. Your streamer injured his penis with a fleshlight. I finally did it. This is what I'm saying when I say in the last few years, I feel like authentically me in a way that I didn't before. Esme went on a work trip and I was like, what do I want to do? I got the house to myself. What do I feel like doing right now? It's like, you know what? Women buy vibrators all the time. Nobody bats an eye, you know? So I was like, you know what? Let's try a fleshlight. Fine. Went $80, reasonably priced. And then a month later, I'm at the doctor. I'm like, hey, it hurts when I get an erection. Maybe take it easy next time. You don't need to be so vigorous about it.
Action.
When I looked at it, I think the vibe that I got was like short stack, thick kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the way like goblins get drawn in porn.
Niggas press their luck in, they get a butt. straight up the ass raw dog with the rat.
Destiny was objectively wrong for this and deserves all of the backlash. I think it's important to acknowledge that the people who exposed this story were not looking out for the victims at all. In fact, they were actively working against their best interests. In comes President Sunday and Beckett. Neither of these people had direct contact with Destiny, Kyla, Pixie, or anyone else involved in this story. They never even tried to reach out, yet they were the ones who posted videos outing the whole thing. The only information they have comes from Aaron leaking all of Pixie's messages. They are only working with secondhand information. In Sunday's video, he says Pixie's silence was bought in exchange for Destiny paying for her law school, leaving all the other victims out to dry.
Pixie has since said nothing publicly. There has been no evidence of legal proceedings being pursued, and she has seemingly ceased communications with the people she was previously working with, instead posting on X about taking the LSAT in pursuit of law school. It appears as though her attempt to extort Destiny has probably paid off, albeit at the expense of every other person Destiny has victimized in the past and will victimize.
She's not, bro, it's just like she's not obligated to prioritize other people over her. The risk of the exposure of her nudes leaking went up like 1,000x after coming forward, and that's just such an obvious risk. And you know, he's saying that she's like morally obligated to endure all that, which is just a wild thing to say. Like, this President Sunday person is completely unhinged.
In the future.
His evidence for this is a single tweet of her saying she took the LSAT, as if you could just sign up and pass this test within a month. So at this point, my mind was blown that someone would out a victim for a 100K view video while the victim was still discussing their options, and then determine their silence was bought over a tweet. No need to confirm anything. So I reached out to Pixie to try and confirm.
He came forward after this Sunday loser exposed her. Well, at that point, he forced her hand, which is why, like, I consider that to be immoral. Like, sharing somebody else's story like that without their consent, it's violative. It's not as violative as like sharing her nudes, but he basically forced her to come forward and be public about this whole situation, which to me is completely unethical.
If she ever talked to Sunday or Beckett about this, Pixie has pursued litigation against Destiny. However, she did let Lonerbox, who she's dating, provide some details.
Did President Sunday reach out to Pixie one time to see if he could go live with this video or to confirm that the draft was canceled or anything like that?
No, he didn't.
It is so incredibly selfish of Sunday and Beckett to insert themselves into a situation where they take agency away from Pixie. Because one, she's pursuing legal action, and you guys making this public gives Destiny ample time to delete evidence, while Pixie's team was still building their case. I know I look smart enough to come up with that point myself. I'm not, so take that how you will. 4 days before Sunday released his video, he had a conversation with Nick acknowledging that Pixie was suicidal over this leaking.
All I'm getting from this is
and then recorded the conversations like secretly and then put it in the video. It's just so wild to me.
Really not going to want this to be public. She wants to hurt Steven, but she doesn't want this to be known that she's...
My understanding is that Nick didn't know he was being recorded here.
And this is her.
Yeah.
And she
seems to be a theme.
She desperately doesn't want her family to know. And if I cover it, there's a good chance they will find out.
Oh, 100%. Why do you think I haven't covered this at all? Like, that's my principal issue.
Yeah.
And then he released it. Like,
yeah, that's
is like here's the thing. If anything happens to Pixie in the foreseeable future,
it all drops.
Well, he will actually be destroyed then. That
like what is he lying here, or is he did he just go back on that principle like a week later?
Be insurmountable. Not destroyed. He'll have his channel, he'll have his audience, but there will be no
politics.
The media company dream will not be a thing. So
it sounds like he's getting excited over the idea of Pixie killing herself and it ending Destiny's career. This dude sounds like a psychopath. In fact, during his call, he gives a hypothetical saying as much.
Here's the thing. Let's assume I was a psychopath, and I'm not. Okay, somebody saying these things would be enough to deter me. Let's assume I was a psychopath. Let's assume I published this.
President Sunday told Nick they both agree that going live without the victim's consent is a bad idea, and President Sunday does it anyway. Actual psychopath behavior. President Sunday's justification for this was that Pixie was engaging in extortion against Destiny.
Fortunately, Pixie did
was
the
that
worst
an Andrew Wilson tweet? What was that? Destiny is a Coomer degen, but I've never had any sympathy for the many women he bangs. Jesus Christ.
Sunday's justification for this was that Pixie was engaging in extortion against Destiny.
It seems like a Random tweet to put on the screen there.
Pixie did the worst thing that someone in her position could do. Rather than seek legal recourse or make a public statement denouncing the violation of her consent and dignity that these leaks represented, she seems to have ultimately chosen to try and profit from the situation by extorting Destiny.
I don't understand how Pixie discussing
it's
what
from
her next
Sunday's
step is
video?
and what the correct form of punishment should be, equaling extortion, because that's how most civil cases start. Destiny even says in a statement on Reddit that Pixie at no point made a specific or explicit request for compensation. So I asked President Sunday, did you talk to a lawyer, or is this just your layman interpretation of the law? Because let's be real, I don't think there's any way she gets charged for this. President Sunday says, yes, I spoke with lawyers I know. You know what their answer was? Obviously. I asked, can you link me to the statement from the lawyer you spoke with, saying these DMs count as extortion? And he says they were IRL conversations, so no. So I asked who the lawyer was because I would love to confirm this, and he replies, it's someone I know. Go find your own lawyer. It's so obvious to me that he's lying. You're telling me that you talked to a lawyer but didn't get any on-the-record statement for your video? Sure. To confirm it even farther, President Sunday did a stream leaking all of our DMs. His editor Kilo came forward exposing that President Sunday never talked to a lawyer.
He claims he's consulted lawyers about this. Originally, he told me, Kilo, you're not a lawyer. I was raised by one and took law courses in university.
Oh my
But then when he was
God.
talking to Aiko, she asked if he spoke to lawyers.
Who
and he
are
said,
these
"I spoke to
people,
who
man?
know lawyers.
Who did you speak to?
Several people I can't name, but
But
just
lawyers,
trust me on this.
lawyers.
People who know lawyers.
But then, when he was talking with Willie Mac, he said he spoke directly to lawyers.
What was
but
that?
Won't mention who.
So Sunday is just lying to make the victim seem like a
I've
bad guy,
spoken
so
with
he
people
doesn't
who
get the same
know
for making-
lawyers. Was that a real thing that he said? Concepts. Yeah, I've spoken to concepts of a lawyer.
His video.
Beckett of Krabs, myself, and President Sunday sat down to present evidence, put together a timeline, and establish what the mission of the project was. I was a little anxious, but also excited to learn what President Sunday had, and I wanted to find out what the justification was for coming out with the story, the nuke. But we started the meeting, and after only about 10 minutes, I interjected. Sunday didn't have a nuke. I'm not even sure Beckett had much of anything. And the only real reason for publishing that was given to me was that because Pixie was supposedly trying to extort Destiny, she was somehow implicated in the cover-up efforts by Destiny and his associates, and therefore had forsaken her right to privacy, or something like that. I don't know.
Sunday does every stream in front of a wall of books, draws himself sitting on a pile of books. He's so knowledgeable, repeatedly calling me stupid in DMs for asking straightforward questions. Meanwhile, he's comfortable just making things up because he's above saying I don't know or I could be in the wrong. The dumbest people I talk to seem to think they're geniuses. Just a pattern I'm recognizing. He's lying about being an intellectual the same way he lied about talking to a lawyer. I'm not convinced he could read Dr. Seuss. He's malicious. He's acted like a psychopath. He outed a victim's story when she was working on the court case. Slandered her.
An American citizen who finds themselves a victim of revenge pornography has several valid actions they can take. Let's go over 3. First, they can seek legal recourse. Second, they may make a public statement denouncing the person who leaked the materials and violated their consent. And in fact, this can be done in conjunction with the first option I mentioned. And finally, they can choose to do nothing. They can stay silent and hope that it all blows over. And this is their right. But Pixie did not do any of these.
She was in the middle of doing the first 2 things, and then you robbed her of the third. But yeah, keep acting like the good guy. He's the type of person I hope never becomes a successful YouTuber. If you're a victim, why would you ever want to share your story? He's shown it's going to leak, then people you've never talked to are going to publicize it. You will be vilified by them because they don't care about you or your legal case at all. If I had any advice for Sunday, it would be to apologize to Pixie and the victims, not just post a pinned comment half backtracking what you're saying. Also shower, get a haircut, go outside. You aren't mature enough to cover these sort of things if you don't have basic hygiene. The video made by Sunday's former editor details the clown show that was this investigation. It's the most comedic tragedy I've ever watched.
With all due respect, I'm not sure you think you know what you're saying when you say you have to, because when you
I didn't say have to. I didn't
Really?
say that. You said that. I said you have an expectation, and you said, well, I don't have to do that. I'm not saying you have to do anything. I'm saying there's an expectation that you do this thing. When you're communicating with someone in private, they're expecting that you're not going to show that to other people without asking them first.
Okay, but if they're asleep, they're not expecting, are they?
If they're asleep?
They're asleep, yeah. If people are asleep, they're not expecting anything. They're kind of just out, right?
Are you trolling me right now?
No, I'm actually making a serious point.
The conversations he had with his editor are psychotic.
Why the f are you adding extra risks to this? We're already in enough danger as is.
You think we're in danger? I don't think
we are in tremendous danger.
What is going? Who is this guy, bro?
So you don't think, for example, if you said something that was able to be effectively spun by someone like Nick DeOrio that managed to get some traction that
cast aspersions on my entire channel. That income plummeted, so I can't pay you. That doesn't affect you?
It's about me.
Oh my
How
God,
does this
bro.
affect Sunday? How can I manipulate my editor into staying quiet? I also talked to Beckett, who worked somewhat with Sunday, and dropped his video.
Sean, aka leftward bending cock Hutchinson.
How do you guys know that about me? Why do you know that incredibly personal detail? I mean, it doesn't shock me that I would have told you something like that.
On the same day. Now, his wasn't nearly as bad, but he still went forward with the video.
Yeah, I give a new meaning to the phrase left-leaning. It's true, it's true.
Knowing only secondhand information. Really third-hand because he's getting it from Sunday. Recognize you're getting your information secondhand.
Sex scandal. Shit on Tesla.
Any point did you try to reach out to Pixie?
No. But to be clear, this was a very brief period, a couple of days. I clearly did want to reach out to people. There was actually a conversation where I wanted to reach out to Lonerbox. Because I don't know Pixie.
But why did you reach out to Lonerbox?
I didn't. But but that's partly because of what Loner had just done on the stream. I think that's a mistake, by the way. I'll own that mistake. But I obviously wanted to reach out to people. For instance, I went to FPS Diesel for an optics check on the DMs and what he thought. I was reaching out to Nick.
Nick and Diesel, no less than Beckett and Sunday. What does going to them do? Realize why I'm so critical, though, of you and Sunday? Because hold on, you're telling me, though, you're telling me, though, that this was done over a couple of days. You didn't bother to reach out to Lonerbox or Pixie, and you guys went for the story anyway. How did you even get the draft?
Was this like an arms race? Like, did Sunday and Beckett jump over these, what I would argue would be like really necessary steps in the process to like reach out to Pixie? Because they felt like, oh, well, the other person's going to release it before me, and therefore I might lose out on views. I don't know. Like, I don't want to speculate because I just don't know, but it seems reasonable to infer that maybe that was a part of the reasoning here.
Was that from Aaron too?
Sorry, get the
draft of like Pixie's draft statement.
Yeah, I showed that in the DMs. Yeah.
So you guys have a draft from her. It seems like she's going to come out in some way because she has a written draft. Like, it just seems, it blows my mind, man. Like, you've been somebody where I've been told over and over again, nah, dude, Copen Seed is great. He does great videos, takes a lot of care with them. And it's like, to me, I look at this and I'm like, I cannot believe, it just seems like such a selfish story.
Well, hold on. Let me be clear. I don't think selfish is that. I think
Dan said instead of just abandoning a friend when they f up, it was all about the clout, I guess. Again, when I think of the word friend, here's my bar, okay? A friend is someone that you can call and you can ask them, hey, will you help me move? That's a friend. There's a lot of other examples I could give, but really, like, I feel like that is like the best indicator of someone that you can call a friend. I've had friendly conversations with Destiny over the years. I've thought that, I felt like at various times, Destiny represented like a very important counter current against what I thought to be a very kind of destructive form of left-wing politics. And I respected him for that on that level. But friend, would he have called, let's put it this way. If he would have called me and said, hey, I'm moving out of Miami. I'm moving to New York. Can you help me move? I would have been like, what?
I think I can take a lot of criticism. I think there are issues there. But I don't think selfish is fair.
In what way is that not selfish?
Well, because I didn't do this to get clout or money or like acclaim. I thought this was going to end my channel. Sunday was going to release a video. I thought, I know Sunday, and I thought what needed to be done at the same time was painting a picture of what had happened but behind the scenes to explain why so many people had these DMs. Mm-hmm. What I needed was Sunday's DMs with Straighter Aid. I didn't expect this to be a video where I'd get like pats on the back.
Again, why you think it would damage you?
What, the video?
Yeah, before you made it.
Because I recognized that once these were coming out, the people who were releasing them would get rightfully a fair amount of criticism for doing so.
Then why would you release it?
Why would you do it then?
Well, for some, I've said publicly as well, if Sunday wasn't releasing his video, I wouldn't have released the same video. I probably wouldn't have acted in the same way. But
what? It was an arms race. That's exactly what this was.
Sunday looked at these. These are coming out. He wants to talk about it. Well, okay. It needs a companion piece.
So because he is jumping off of a bridge, you're doing it too, dude? Oh, man.
Well, like, and again, that's what I'm saying. It's, you know, it's something I expected to do damage to me. But also, what was the other option? Lie about it?
No, the other option.
Don't do a video.
Everybody else did, and you just wait. Let everybody else shoot themselves in the foot if he's going to be reckless with the victim and her claims and hijack her story. Like, you realize she was talking to lawyers during this, and they're gathering information. Fucking crazy.
Listen,
I'm
on many levels, I'm with you. And I think one of my constant comments through this is, how does this reach me? I am like 5th person down the chain. How does this reach me with no one doing any of that?
It just makes me go, like, how were you the person to feel like you should make that video?
Because I thought it was such a mess that at least I could make an uneditorialized.
Yours I don't think was as bad, but just the premise of this whole thing, when I talk to everybody, it's just...
I think it is a mess.
Beckett is the only person I talked to that acknowledged wrongdoing and said he would go about things differently in the future. Takeaway seems to be what I think is the most important thing, and that's that you have to reach out to Pixie. You got to make clear, or Lonerbox, and you got to make clear of like, hey, this is what I know. This is the story I'm thinking of running. I want to know like what's going on with this. Are you guys pursuing anything? And then they could go ahead and like give you the guidelines to it. Like, hey, look, we're talking legally. We'd rather this not come out.
Yeah, like again, I'm not defending every part of this, and I don't want to. I mean, this is how I started the call, right?
Which is more than any other person I talked to. He became very critical of himself, especially as things moved off the record. I respect him for that.
When I met you, I admit my first thoughts was a trick. You look so good, huh?
The random interstitials he does with like 90s rap.
Suck on your daddy's dick.
Every day that passes, the drama.
It's kind of interesting to me because he looks like he's like 28, 27.
It gets more hilarious. Destiny.
How does he know who Notorious B.I.G. is?
Are watching each other's content nukes while refusing to view their own. I get he's going through a legal case, but at some point he needs to address that video. During my off-the-record conversation with Beckett, he asked me a pointed question. When would you...
Wait, what? He is not 40 plus. What? There's no way. No, bro, he's fucking... well, he's 38. He's 38 years old. 47 says his wiki. Willie McClinton Jr., born January 5th, 1987, is an American professional wrestler. Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. Wait. That's not... Okay. What's his... How old? You guys are saying he's in his 40s. Okay, I guess I'll choose to believe you. I find that so difficult to believe. He does not look like he's in his 40s.
Associate with Destiny again. If he was part of some drama as a side character and I interviewed him, I would do it then, but I don't think I could just go hang on his podcast anymore. Destiny and I were not friends. However, I have a lot of respect for him. He's the only major creator in the political space that I have covered that actually looks stuff up, reads firsthand information, and directly engages with his critics. That may seem like a low bar, but it's rare. He's somebody that has always demanded accountability.
Accurate, true. Very accurate, very true.
From others, but right now when he's objectively in the wrong, he's not taking any of it. He's calling Nick a hypocrite for saying innocent until proven guilty with Ethan, but not treating himself that way. Nick then makes very clear, you shared Pixie's intimate videos with a random 19-year-old OnlyFans model, and then posted logs where you admitted to severely damaging her, and he links the messages of Destiny doing just that. I'm the kind of person that could forgive anyone for about anything, but there needs to be remorse, and he's obviously not there yet. His coworkers cover for him saying
he's basically echoing my exact thoughts. To wrap up this video here, this is the summary of his thoughts. Is exactly where I am at.
He is, but I don't see it. I don't see how anyone could take him seriously until then. I also want to emphasize how good the video was by President Sunday's former editor, Kilo. He actively tried to correct the record, and his video has very few views. He gave up money to try and do the right thing, and I think that should be acknowledged. Hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe.
What about Kyla, though? How come there was no slack for Kyla there? Kyla did it on a much bigger level. Sacrificed her own, like, livelihood. Much more so than President Sunday's editor, I would assume.
The channel, and shout out to the homies over on Patreon.
I mean, that was a good video.